Well, good morning and welcome to the Silverlight Firestarter. We're excited to have over 20,000 people joining us live this morning, many here in the room and the rest streamed live around the world. Today we're going to provide a pretty packed day of content. We got a lot of great training material around Silverlight and how you can build great Silverlight-based solutions. Today's event, though, is also going to provide a first look at some of our future plans that will be coming out in the future. One of the things that makes Silverlight great is the amazing developer community that's been built up around it. We've got more than 1 million developers that are building using Silverlight today. We have hundreds of user groups around the world focused on Silverlight, many of which are holding viewing parties right now to watch this event live. Hi. I want to say, really start off by saying a huge thank you to everyone who participates within the community for the amazing work that you do and the real energy you bring to it. We on the team really, really appreciate it. I want to say a big thank you. I'd also like to say a special thank you to someone in the audience who's come here from Phoenix, Dave Campbell, who just blogged his 1,000th Silverlight Cream blog post. He provides regular updates with lots of links to great articles and tutorials written by many of you around the web. We want to say a big thank you to Dave. So we shipped Silverlight 4 a little over 7 months ago, and we've seen some amazing uses of it since then. And what I thought I'd do is just spend a little bit of time talking about a few of them. We continue to see a great adoption of Silverlight for premium media solutions. In the last few weeks alone, we've seen great companies like Canal+, TV2, Maximum TV go live with both live and on-demand-based solutions with Silverlight. And we're seeing more and more companies and sites use Silverlight to deliver great web applications. And here's just a small sampling of a few both enterprise and consumer applications that have been built recently with Silverlight 4. And what I thought I'd do is actually just spend a few moments highlighting 2 applications that I think kind of illustrate some of the power of what you can do with the current shipping version. The first one here is from our friends at SAP, who this summer launched a Silverlight 4 enterprise-based solution that really provides a bunch of great customer value. And so if we could roll the video, we'll go ahead and
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this short demonstration on the user interface of SAP Business by Design based on Microsoft Silverlight's rendering engine. What does Silverlight allow us to do? First of all, in a browser-based application, it gives us the capability to have a much higher level of interactivity on the screen than what we ever had before. If you look at the UI of Business by Design, it's nice and clean, so we have the most important tiles, especially in the analytical ones. But let me show you another way how we are using the capabilities of Silverlight. Especially when you visualize reports, you can do this here in this specific style. So you can browse through your reports like you would do it with your CD collection. And if you look for a specific report, let's say the sales order volume, because I'm the Chief Executive Officer and want to know a bit more about how my last couple of months business was developing, well, you just click on it and here you have it. Again, Silverlight shows us its capabilities here, because if I now, for example, change the visualization to a pie chart, well, this is all I don't have to develop, which I get out of the box. And if I decide to rather work on this tabular format, well, I can do this. And if I now want to understand a bit better, okay, a C-classified account, order number 61, why was that so successful? Well, it just takes me one click and I'm in the middle of the order. Here you see another capability of Silverlight, the sticky notes which we are using, also capability out of the box. I can see what I sold, and if I want to know a bit more about what happened to this specific order, with a lead, convert it into an opportunity, sales quote, sales order, and so on and so on. If I would like to see the order confirmation once again, well, it's just one click away, and here I can browse through the order confirmation or print it for the customer once again. Go back to my report and also print this report with Silverlight capabilities built in here. If I click on print, I get here into the dialog for the client-side printing. Here, first of all, I can decide whether I want to print in landscape or whether I want to print in portrait. Let's keep the portrait, but you see it doesn't fit on one screen. So what I can do here is I can zoom now the whole report in the way how it fits my requirements best and then print it from here. So this kind of interactivity, this is what makes Silverlight for us so attractive.
It was great to see SAP. As I mentioned, they shipped this great solution in July, and really seeing some great enterprise adoption of Silverlight over the last year, really. We're also seeing a bunch of consumer experiences being built with Silverlight 4, and I'd like to show another video here that highlights some of the capabilities it provides for consumer scenarios. A year ago at the PDC, we demonstrated a Facebook application that provides a great experience, which might come up on the screen shortly, that enables you to kind of experience Facebook in a much richer way. You can see it here. And it takes advantage of the out-of-browser capabilities of Silverlight 4. And one of the things that we heard from people that saw it at the PDC was, I want this app. It was kind of a concept app to begin with, but our friends at Telerik have actually taken the application and turned it into a real production application. They've added things like Facebook chat support. You can see the smooth scrolling, the notifications integrated within Facebook. It really kind of provides an awesome way to experience Facebook. And what's great is it's now available and shipping. And so you can go to facedeck.telerik.com and download and install it today. Weeks ago, we also shipped Windows Phone 7. Now, Silverlight is the application platform for Windows Phone 7 and enables developers to build amazing user experiences for it. And you can see here just one example from IMDb and IdentityMine, and kind of the slick user experience and the way that you can fully take advantage of panorama-style UI that Windows Phone 7 provides. We've had more than 3,000 applications already been uploaded into the Windows Phone Marketplace. And here's just a small smattering of them. And what's great is every user of a Windows Phone application can now browse, download, and optionally pay for any of the applications you build with it. And we've seen some great feedback already on the Windows Phone experience, some great reviews, and really excited to see as more and more applications go live with it. Well, most of today's content is going to be focused on providing you with training and material that enables you to build great Silverlight solutions with today's shipping technology. But I'm going to spend the rest of my time in this keynote this morning talking about where we're going with Silverlight in the future. I want to pause briefly and recognize that there's been a lot of angst on this topic in the last few weeks. Let me say up front that there is a Silverlight future, and we think it's going to be a very bright one. And over the course of the next hour, rather than just talk about it, we're going to show it. And we're going to show it with real code and a bunch of exciting new capabilities that we're pretty happy and looking forward to getting your feedback on. Yeah, we do live in a very connected world now, and there's a lot of devices out there, and users demand and expect the richest possible experiences on them. And it's important to recognize there is not going to be one technology that's going to be used to do all of it. At Microsoft, our goal is to kind of provide a technology portfolio that enables developers to build the best possible user experiences. We're going to be investing heavily in HTML5, and we want to make sure we have the best browser out there that supports it. We're also going to invest very heavily in Silverlight, and we're going to make sure that you can build the richest possible media and applications with it. And we're investing in WPF and enable you to build great desktop applications with it. These are all great technologies. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, but we think ultimately the flexibility of having each of these choices is a real strength of our developer platform and our overall tools offering. And ultimately, it's going to enable you to build the richest possible experiences for your customers. Today, though, we're going to focus on the future of Silverlight. And with that, I'm excited to introduce for the first time Silverlight 5. Silverlight 5 is a major new release that brings with it a ton of enhancements for delivering great media experiences and for application development. With each version of Silverlight, we try to remain super focused on delivering the right features and the right set of capabilities. Like we've done with previous releases of Silverlight, a few months ago we created a website where anyone can go ahead and suggest new features, as well as vote on ones that others have already suggested. We've had more than 21,000 votes for a wide range of features to be included in the next release of Silverlight. And pleased to announce this morning that we have about 70% of all those votes now implemented in the product. And for the next hour, we're going to talk about just a few of them and show off real code and some of the great experiences and capabilities that you can now take advantage of. And let's start by talking about some of the work we're doing to enable even richer premium media experiences. So with Silverlight today, we've got what we think is the richest media platform for delivering great HD content on the web. Silverlight 5, we're going to take that even richer, even more. We're adding hardware video decode support. And what this means now is instead of using your CPU to decode video, we can actually offload it onto the GPU of a system. We can now stream 1080p HD video, smooth streaming, live and on demand, on a netbook. And basically gives you the richest possible experience when watching your video, and it also means that your CPU and battery power are even better as well. We're adding a new capability we call Trick Play with Silverlight 5. And what this means is it allows you to do what's called variable speed playback of video as well as audio. And importantly for the audio, we do something that's called pitch correction, which means that if you speed up the training video, instead of the trainer sounding like a chipmunk, they'll actually sound normal, and you can actually hear it and watch it and experience the video a little faster. It's great for video training. It's great for internal company videos that people sometimes make you watch, and it basically buys you some time. We've added a bunch of power management features. It basically means that we use less battery power when playing video. It also means that we're integrating with things like the screensaver. So if you're watching a video on screen, the screensaver will no longer kick in. If you pause that video and go away from your computer, the screensaver will kick in. And so basically, much richer power management, much better user experience. And we're also integrating remote control support into Silverlight 5. And what this means is you can now get a 10-foot experience against your PC and take advantage of any remote control device you already have to pause, fast forward, rewind your video. Again, we'll have a much richer user experience just with the box. In addition to making big media investments on the client side with Silverlight 5, we're also making big investments on the server side. And to enable this, we ship a product today called IS Media Services. It's a free product, and it basically provides everything you need to deliver premium media experiences. So if you want to put on something like the World Cup or the Olympics or some of the other great events that have been broadcast using Silverlight, you can actually just take this product, and it has pretty much everything you need from a base perspective to kind of deliver that type of experience. We recently shipped IS Media Services 4 a few weeks ago, and this added a bunch of additional capabilities for both live and on-demand based streaming. In addition to supporting Silverlight desktop clients, it added support for smooth streaming to Windows Phone 7 devices. And we've also introduced a feature we call transmuxing, which allows you to actually encode for smooth streaming. And on devices where Silverlight's not installed, like the iPad and the iPhone, we can actually target the native iPhone, iPad streaming format. And so without having to install any application, you can actually stream video to a browser on those devices. And you can also consume video from any native application within that app store. We've also added what's called low latency live streaming. This is important for things like financial updates or other types of key streaming events, so that the latency from when the event happens to the point it reaches someone who's watching it can be as low as 2 or 3 seconds. And we've also added a bunch of performance delivery and management and operations infrastructure into the product. And the end result, we think, is a really powerful product that's both easy to use and allows you to build and host the most demanding of media experiences. They kind of try to show off just sort of the power and also hopefully the ease of which you can do this. I'd like to invite Chris Knowlton on stage to give us a demo that's actually going to walk through end-to-end how to set up a video event that's live and stream it to a bunch of different devices. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, guys.
Well, good morning. What I'd like to do is just talk really quickly about what I'm going to show you. I'm going to do an end-to-end live smooth streaming demo. And what you really need to do this is you have 3 major things. You need to take the raw video and compress it. You need to scale it out intelligently with a server. And then you need to play it back on the devices, as Scott was just talking. So really the key point here is I'm going to do an easy setup. We're going to get live video fast, and we're going to go to multiple devices. So first, let me bring up Expression Encoder. This is Expression Encoder 4 Pro. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to choose the live broadcasting project. What I'm going to do here is actually show you a sneak peek of an Expression Encoder 4 Pro Service Pack 1, which has a few extra items in it. And I'll show you those as we go through. So first, let me just set up. I have a Microsoft LifeCam here on the desk. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then what I have it pointed at is a little toy here for iProp. I figured you'd rather look at that than at me. And I'll go set this. Let me just set a few things real fast here. and pick an audio device. I'll pick the same device. And then for encoding, there are actually a whole bunch of standard presets and things here you can choose. I've actually pre-configured one that works across these devices, so I'll just go ahead and choose that. And then on my output, this is where now I will go and switch over to IS Media Services. Because what we're really talking about on the output is basically, what am I going to do with this stream? How am I going to push this out somewhere where somebody can actually take advantage of it? So I'm going to push it out to the IS server, which will then scale it out in a broad and distributable, scalable method. So I'll switch over to that real quick. And I have a live publishing point here that I already created on my demo website. And I'll show you real quick. This is a basic tab, so I just called it live. You can archive the media, so you can play it back later on demand. You can also enable DVR, so digital video recording. So when you want that kind of TiVo or cable box experience where you pause the live stream, go get a beverage, come back, and then pick it up where you left off or go back to the live point, you can do that. And then the new part, one of the things that Scott just mentioned, is this ability to add mobile devices. And so here what you see is that with a single box, checkbox, I can enable output to Apple devices like the iPad that I have sitting here. So that's set up. And I'm going to go ahead. Oh, just a second here. Let me start that publishing point. There we go. And flip back to Expression Encoder. And now what I want to do is actually, now that I've set that up, is go ahead and point the encoder. And if I click the button and I get a green light, now we've got the encoder talking to the server. So I know that the connection's there. And then on the Templates tab, this is one of the new features in Expression Encoder coming out in the Service Pack. Now we have the ability to do live Silverlight templates right in the UI. So without having to write any code or write any URLs or anything now, I can just say, I'd like a Silverlight template, please. And you actually see that Silverlight preview up there on the screen. And so I'm going to generate the file and push that out to the server so that it actually is there for people to hit. Go into my demo directory and say that's where I want to push the files, and I generate the files and finish. And pretty good to go. So I'll hit start. Now we have a live stream going out. And just to show you that that's working, I'll refresh this page. I'll actually hit the details. And what you see now is another new feature in smooth streaming. This is one of the management features that Scott referred to. It's that ability to actually see in real time that streams are going out and exactly which streams are going out. So now I'm going to move over to the client. And it is already set here. So I'll hit play on this. This Silverlight client that I just pushed up to the server. Let me just refresh because it may be from an earlier test we did here. There we go. OK, so now we have it going to the desktop. Now let's do one other thing. Before we go to iPad, I'll also show you on Windows Phone 7. So I'm going to just put this up here for real quick. And we've got it. So what I have here is a Silverlight Media Framework app written for the Windows Phone 7, which you can get now. It's available for free up on Codeplex. And you can get it up there as a free download and use it for building applications on the server or on your client. OK, so now we've got that working. You can see now we're streaming back on Windows Phone 7 and on the desktop. And now I'm going to pull up our iPad. And this is the other feature we were talking about, the ability to actually take that smooth stream and without re-encoding at all, go ahead and send that signal down to something that the iPad and iPhone understand natively. So here's my home page on that server. And I'll just go into my bookmarks and pick a page that I built so you didn't just have to look at a plain page. And it'll load that up. It takes a little longer on the iPad. And there we have that. And of course, I could also go full screen and everything on that, too. Great. So basically what we've done here is I've, in like 3 minutes, set up everything, took a live stream that could be publishing on the web right now, put it across desktop, put it across Windows Phone, put it across non-Windows devices like the iPad, and got a great high-quality video experience in just minutes. If you're interested in learning more about any of the technologies I just showed, we'll actually have a media session this afternoon. Maybe you have not seen that on the agenda, but it'll be right across the hall for those of you who are here in Redmond. Feel free to come into that, or we'll post it online afterwards for folks who would like to see it. And with that, I think we're good to go. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Guthrie. So I think as Chris again showed you is just how easy it is to set up an HD media event, in this case live, streamed to a variety of different devices. And obviously we also support on demand and provide some of the richest experiences with it as well. What's great about IS Media Services 4 is it's a free product. You can install it locally on any server you have within your own organization. You can also install it in a server that's managed by a Windows hosting provider. We're also pleased to announce that we're going to be adding IS Media Services support to Windows Azure, which is our cloud offering. And that's going to enable you to scale up your delivery of smooth streaming content even better than before and really take advantage of that cloud capacity. So that's a little bit about media. Let's talk about applications now. So Silverlight provides a really rich application development platform. And this enables you to build applications that are fast and responsive, can be delivered through a browser with very easy deployment, and can be built with great productivity. And kind of set up some context for some of the new features we're going to be showing today. I want to pause briefly and actually invite Dave Ossip on stage, who's going to highlight some of the solutions they've already built as part of their SaaS-based offering for workforce management, and really highlight some of the great capabilities that Silverlight provides. So I'd like to invite Dave to show it off. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everyone. Before I begin, let me just talk a bit about Dayforce, what we do. We go into organizations and we allow the companies to plan the labor, which is how much they have to spend. We then help the companies determine when in the day they should actually have the people working. We track when they come, when they go, calculate their pay. And for all of the employees working for those companies, we allow them to view their schedules, view their time cards, manage the availability. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a real live app. It's an app we've been selling for about 18 months now. It's going fantastically in the market. We've got retailers, we've got manufacturers, financial services companies using the actual product. Some companies have as few as a few hundred employees. Other companies have as many as 40,000 people. And so over here, if you can imagine, I'm an employee named Acton Short, and I'm working at a retailer. And when I log on, you can see I'm shown my calendar for the upcoming month. It shows me where I'm on vacation, and it allows me to manage my availability, which is I can actually specify when in the day I'm actually prepared to actually work. Obviously, I can also request time away from work. So over here, I've got a kids' PD day that's coming up, and over here, I'm going off to see Mickey Mouse at Disney. One's been approved, one is pending. I'm now going to just switch over tabs here, and I'm now going to become a manager. So I'm a manager of the store where Acton works, and when I log on, you can see I'm showing a dashboard, and it shows me what my forecasted sales are for the actual week. It shows me what my scheduled hours, my budget, my variance. I can very simply go and I can zoom down into a particular department, and the graph over there just paints live. And what the manager would do each week is they would start off with the plan, and they would go off and actually plan out their labor. And what Silverlight allows us to do, it allows us to create a very complicated labor model that we can present simply to the actual users. We can allow them to make adjustments to the actual sales forecast. We can allow them to drill down by department or drill down by day of week. If they would like to see some of the actual graphing, they can actually graph additional KPIs on the actual screen, or just wipe them out if they don't want to see them. Once the manager is happy with the actual plan, they would move over to the actual schedule. And what you see on the screen here is my labor coverage requirements throughout the day. Red is where I'm overscheduled, and yellow is where I'm underscheduled. And as I take the actual bars and move them around the actual screen, you see how the chart at the bottom updates in real time. Also, if I actually violate a constraint, say I make the shift too long. Well, let's take one here as a constraint, make the shift too long. You see immediately I get an exception over here that tells me that I've exceeded the actual maximum amount. Likewise, if I were to actually take the shift and move it into a period when the employee is unavailable, again, I get a different type of warning telling me that I've actually made an availability constraint. So this is the actual power of Silverlight over here. What you're seeing is zero latency time on the actual screen. We're actually running a full labor compliance engine and a pay engine inside the actual browser, making use of the CPU that resides inside the client. And this is massive because from a scalability perspective, we can have 40,000 people using the application at the same time without any resource load on the back-end server. So when I look at this particular application versus previous applications that I've built in, say, Java or other types of web deployment platforms, we scale at about 1/30th of the cost of those other applications, again, because we're using the CPU inside the actual client. Another quick benefit you see is as I actually make these changes, 0 latency time. Everything is instantaneous. And what that means, it means a couple things. The first thing, it means from a user perspective, they like the experience. And because they like the experience, they're more apt to use it. And so we actually solve one of the biggest problems that's always been around in our industry, user adoption. The other benefit is actually for the organizations buying the system. And the big benefit is because it takes so much less time to use the application, about 50% of the time relative to a traditional web app, it saves them a lot of money. Say, for instance, I take this 1,000-location retailer, and instead of taking 4 hours each week to build a schedule, it now only takes me 2 hours. Well, if I happen to have 1,000 locations, I'm going to be saving something like 2,000 hours each week. And if each manager gets paid, say, $20 an hour, that's $4,000 of savings per week, or $2 million on an annual basis. So they're massive benefits. So there are benefits for us because we actually host the application. So it costs us much less because we don't need as much back-end servers. The users like using the application. The companies actually save a tremendous amount of money because it's quicker to use. And the final benefit we actually get from Silverlight is that from a development perspective, we're able to produce code at about 25% of the cost as when we were a Java shop. So massive efficiency benefits in using the actual platform and the actual tools. So our experience has actually been fantastic, as you can see, with the Silverlight. Great usability with the application. We can do very nice calculations, get user adoption, and obviously very happy with the product. So I'd like to actually thank everyone, and hopefully you've enjoyed the presentation.
So nice thing is everything you saw Dave present there is possible with Silverlight 4 today. And with Silverlight 5, we're going to make application development even better. We're going to add some brand new capabilities we're going to be talking about for the rest of this morning, and some exciting new surprises that will be coming shortly. But one of the things we're also really focusing on, though, is just how do we make the existing features and the existing feature areas a lot better. And so you're also going to see in Silverlight 5 just a lot of those requests that you've asked for over the years of this feature or that feature we just completed. A lot of investment there in terms of just rounding out the developer experience, making you more productive, and allowing you to kind of deliver value even faster. And so to start off, actually talking about some of the Silverlight 5 application features, I want to talk about one of those areas that we've significantly improved, which is the data binding space. We've made a lot of improvements to data binding with Silverlight 5. I think one of the biggest improvements that I think a lot of developers are going to be looking forward to, especially once you see this feature in action, is data binding debugging. And what this means now is that you can set breakpoints on your data binding expressions within Silverlight, and you can use them to actually easily step through your code. Yeah. I'm guessing maybe 1 or 2 people have had a debug or tried to debug a data binding expression failure before. Well, now the debugger will make it easy. We're also adding markup extension support for model view vmodel. What this means is that you can now actually one of the things we're doing across multiple of these features here is converging a lot of the WPF and Silverlight data binding features and bringing into Silverlight a lot of the features that people have asked for from WPF that are really powerful and allow you to kind of build great applications. Model view vmodel support is one of them. We added a bunch of feature support in Silverlight 4 to support things like commanding. Well, one of the features that people have asked for that we're adding now in Silverlight 5 is markup extension support. That means that you can actually very cleanly author a model view vmodel based solution and do it in the same way that you do both in Silverlight and in WPF. We're also adding implicit data template support, which allows you to kind of have a common set of styles for a type by default across an application. We're adding features like ancestor relative source binding, binding and style setters, as well as adding a data context changed event. Hopefully all of these things can improve the productivity, save you a couple hours or a week in terms of developer time, and make the development experience even better. Another area that's kind of a core area that people work with a lot, that we've made a lot of improvements with in Silverlight 5, is to do with WCF and RIA services and our overall networking stack. We now support WS Trust support for security, which is one of the top asks that people have asked for over the years. We've also added some new features to enable what we call low latency networking with Silverlight 5. This means if you want to use Silverlight for like a trading application or something that needs to be near real time in terms of communication, a lot faster responsiveness on the network stack and a lot of things you can do with that. Continuing in the model view view model theme, we're adding model view view model friendly data sources with RIA services. We're also adding support for what we call end-to-end complex type support, so that you can actually take a model object on the server, transform it back and forth between the client and the server, even if it's a very complex type. And we're also adding RIA services support for Windows Azure, so you can use things like the Windows Azure table storage provider in the back end in order to provide your data access. Lots of other improvements here, but what I want to do right now is just actually invite John Papa on stage to actually just showcase a few of these and highlight some of the developer productivity wins you get out of it. So with that, here's John.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. So Scott mentioned you're going to see a lot of really sexy features in Silverlight 5 today. But a lot of developers know that there's a lot of everyday programming tasks that can keep you up past midnight coding. So Silverlight 5 has a lot of features that help simplify that. And I'm going to talk about some of those. Some of them are about model view view model, help enabling situations with MVVM patterns to make things easier for you. And with that, I'm going to show you, in honor of Silverlight 5, my 5 favorite features to help developers do things better and more productivity. So looking at our application here, we're going to go through a book club. And with this book club, first you're going to notice some features called layout transitions. As I click on the books, you're going to notice that the items are flying in from different areas. So let me show you that again really quick. These layout transitions, as I toggle through the pages, aren't using any storyboards. There's no vast animations here. We've simplified the process of creating animations to literally 3 to 4 lines of XAML that you can write, pull into your code as a developer, and actually pull in items from the left, the right. You can make opacity change. Very, very simple process. So let's take a look at how that works. So coming into our code, if we fly down to the book panel that we just looked at, let's look at the animation that's used in here. So down at the bottom, we've got our load transition. All you have to do is add this load transition, and it's got some simple properties in Silverlight 5 called start X offset. Where is it going to start in that position? We've got a generated duration of a second. You can set this to anything you'd like there, and then the opacity is going to start at 20%. So it's going to start at those coordinates, it's going to pull in over a second, and I've also got a little extra added feature here for an easing to make it actually ease into place. By putting this little bit of XAML in your code, you get a nice little application pop, so the application doesn't just stand there and look pretty. So feature number 2 I want to talk about. We talked about model view view model and how things are, how patterns are helping build Silverlight 5 applications. In Silverlight 5, we've added the relative source find ancestor feature, which is also in WPF. And now, how does this help you? Well, there's a common problem developers can have with model view view model and generally with data templates. As you'll notice here, I've got a list of books in the center screen. Each book is inside of a data template, so I can show the title and the image. Well, inside of there, I also want to show a list of deals for the book. How much do you get off? 10%, 20%, or is there any kind of a deal at all? The problem here that developers can face is that inside the data template, the context of the data is a book. So I have no way of knowing what the deals are because I don't have access to that information, which is actually out in my page. So with relative source find ancestor, I can now say, okay, I want to load this list of items from someplace else. Go ahead and find the ancestor called user control and go find the list of deals. So now I can load those list of deals with a single line of XAML, very, very easy to do, and enable buttons as well to run commands that are outside of the purview of this book. So how does all that work? Very simple XAML, and that's the best part of these demos is all the XAML is really, really easy. Inside of my combo box, you can see down here I've got an item source, and instead of binding it straight to deals, which wouldn't work because it doesn't know what the deals are, it only knows it's about a book, I can say relative source mode find ancestor, which is optional. Go find the nearest ancestor up the visual tree called a user control and bind to it. And at that point, I can then bind to the data context, which in this case is my view model, using model view view model. And I find the deals, and I'm bound, and everything loads properly. This wasn't possible before. It's something that was in WPF, and we're getting closer parity to it. So my third feature I want to show is custom markup extensions. Custom markup extensions is a very popular feature. It's very high on the list from our user requests. It allows you to basically do is change your XAML to do any code you want in layman's terms. So what the custom markup extension will do for me in this case, I've taken a very popular request, which is I have a list of categories over here. When I select the category, I want to load the books. So you can see it's loading different books in the right-hand pane. To do that, I don't have any commanding support to do that inside of a list box, out of the box. I could use like triggers and behaviors, which take a lot of XAML to do, and other knowledge. But what I really want to do is just click on this and load my code. So what I've done to do this right now, and I'll stop my code, is inside of the event handler for the selection changed item for my list box, I've got a handler that's going to go and run a code behind. So what I'm going to look for is my selection box right here, and when I select the list, it's going to go out and it's going to run selection changed. Here's my selection event in my code behind. Not hard code, but the problem is I've got my code behind, which is not loosely coupled. It's harder to test, and it doesn't separate my presentation logic from my UI. So I'd like to get rid of all this code, and I'm glad to say with custom markup extensions in Silverlight 5, I can get rid of that code, and I can run any event and bind it to any view model very easily. With a single line of code, I'll switch that line with this one, and you'll see all I have to do is I set the selection change equal to my method binding, that's my class, invoke, and then a method name, and I can bind directly from that list box to the category. And just to prove that this works, let's open that up. Let's run the application. Thank you. You are all and we'll run the application, and now we'll go back to the books. And we go through here, and I click on it. My code still works. Whew. So here we've got the custom markup extensions that work very easily. So I can now have my loosely coupled MVVM features. Again, another WPF parity feature that we've brought in. So we talked about three features of my favorite features. One of my fourth favorite features is a request I get a lot from customers. They might have an application, and maybe you want to change things on the fly across your entire application. So, for example, maybe the customer you have has blue as their company color, or red, or green, or purple. So what I would like to do is I'd like to be able to change the theme of my entire application on the fly. In Silverlight 4, this is a lot harder to do. In Silverlight 5, it's very, very simple. It's dead simple. So what I'm going to show you here is if you click on one of these buttons up here, all the accent colors in my application are going to change immediately. And that's application-wide. I can click on different pages. I can flick it as I go. Now it's purple. Whatever your favorite color is to the application, you can save that in a database for the user or a cookie, whatever you need to do. Very simple to do. What this is enabled through, and for feature 4, is binding and style setters. So now in style setters with Silverlight 5, we have binding features, and I'll show you how simple this is. It's really great. So I've got this style called accent blocks. In my accent blocks, normally I would set in Silverlight 4 my property for fill equal to some color like red, green, blue, etc. In Silverlight 5, I can instead say, hey, let's bind this to some object. And the object in this case is my color settings, where I store whatever the user chose, and I bind it to the property called my brush. And then all throughout my styles, anywhere I need to use that color, I can bind right to it. It updates immediately. Really, really nice. So those are the first 4 features I wanted to mention. My 5th favorite feature is actually my #1 feature, and I get really excited talking about this. How many times a week do developers sit there, look at their XAML, and they don't know what's wrong with it? You want to be able to debug it and set breakpoints in there. And I'm very, very excited to say that now you can actually set breakpoints inside your XAML. So to prove this, I noticed that in my application, I didn't have the author name showing up in the list box. So if I run this real quick, we can see that there's an author name missing. How do I know what's happening? What's going on with my application? Because it's all happening through bindings in Silverlight 4, I couldn't tell unless I hunted and pecked. Right here, the author name's supposed to show up. And also, I noticed the book of the day is blank, and I'm pretty darn sure there's supposed to be a book of the day up here by somebody. So let's go back to our code, and we're going to set a breakpoint right where I know I'm doing the author binding. So here, I've got the author binding. It looks right. It says binding to author full name, and I've got a string format in here. So what's going to happen when I run this? And let's look for that image while I'm at it, while I'm looking for it. So if I look for my image source for the book of the day, that binding looks right too. I've got a binding that says image source and binding of title. I didn't even realize the title was supposed to show up. So let's go ahead and press run, see what happens. So now when I run the application, it's going to run. I go over to my books, And as soon as I hit the binding, it stops in the XAML. Very, very cool. The best part is, not only is it stopped there, but what you get in the locals window, and I'll zoom in here for you, is really, really astounding. It gets me excited. So we look at this here, and I zoom in, and you can see immediately it's saying there's an error. Not only is there an error, but right away I can see author full name property is not found on the book. So I've got the wrong property name. So not only does it tell me the wrong property name is being used, but if I dive into here, I can also see the final source is of type book. So I know I'm binding to the right object, which is pretty good. I kind of figured that since the image was showing up. But then I can look in here and look at other information. Inside the binding, I can see that, hey, there's the string format. So my string format set to by 0. That looks right. I think I set that before. Let's scroll down here. The error information, I've got inner exception error, which we saw earlier. Now let's look at the final source. What's the problem here? So I'm going to go look for my author full name property. I see the problem. Author full name doesn't exist. The name of the property is author, and the value is John Papa. So I know now that I've mistyped the name. I can type the correct name author in there. So let's get out of there. We'll keep running because I know I've got another binding that I have to deal with, and we'll remove the breakpoint for now. So my second binding gets hit in the same time. This was the image for the book of the day. And for the book of the day, I know that there's no, I know that there's supposed to be a book of the day on here. In this case, I've got a binding expression path error again. It says image source property is not found on book of the day. Well, what's the problem? I know there's an image source property. So I dive in here and I use those same properties once again. In this case, I'm going to use the final source. And I'm going to look down, and here's the problem. Final source is a book of the day. It only has properties for book, book ID, and day. There is no image in here. The real issue is inside of the book. I've got a property called image source. I do this all the time in programming. You forget how deep your objects are and your properties. What I was supposed to be typing is book.imageSource. So very quickly, very easily, I can tell everybody why my demo didn't work. How many demos do you get to see in Keynotes that don't work on purpose? I can change it to book.imageSource. That's all good. I come back up here. I search for the author full name. Say, no, it's not author full name. It's just author. And then I can go back, run my application, and I should see the author full name in every book template. And then the book of the day should also show up with the appropriate book for whatever day it happens to be. So we click over. I forgot to remove my binding, of course. And now you can see John Papa shows up, and the book of the day is The Legend of the Red Polo, which is a very popular read I expect everyone to read tonight. So with all that, I wanted to just reiterate the 5 features of my favorite features. These are low-level programming type things that get developers excited. I'm a developer at heart. Layout transitions, really easy to do now. Relative source find ancestor, custom markup extensions, binding and style setters, all help you do binding features, all those everyday tasks. And my favorite of all, data binding debugging. Thank you all very much.
So John just highlighted some of the improvements we're making to the existing data binding set of features. Let's now talk a little bit about some of the text and printing improvements we're adding as well. We're spending a lot of time with this release focusing on text clarity and providing a way you can deliver even crisper and cleaner text when it's rendered on the screen, something people have asked for a while. We're adding multi-column text features, so you can actually flow text across multiple linked containers within your site. We're adding character tracking and leading support, and full open type font support for additional character capabilities. And we're also introducing now a new vector PostScript printing API, which allows you to programmatically construct a print document. It's great for both documents and reports. It means that you can now print whatever you want instead of just what's on the screen within your applications. It gives you a lot more capability and a lot more power. So that's a little bit about text and printing. Obviously, for looking at information and visualizing information, that's pretty important. Another kind of capability that we've introduced with Silverlight 4 is a capability we call Pivot. And now Pivot originally shipped as a separate control that you can use on Silverlight 4 today. We've recently moved the Pivot team into the Silverlight organization, and Pivot will be a built-in feature of the Silverlight 5 SDK, which means that you can just use it out of the box when you're building your applications. And kind of demo Pivot a little bit, as well as to talk about, give a sneak peek of a few things that we're looking at for the future. I'd like to invite Angela Wise on stage.
Thanks. Hi there. I'm really, really excited to demo Pivot Viewer for you guys. It's a cool new data visualization technology built on top of Silverlight. And as Scott said, you can actually download it now on silverlight.net. So I'm going to show you what makes Pivot Viewer so special. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about what the future of Pivot Viewer is going to look like. So Pivot Viewer is a special kind of data visualization that has both a set of metadata associated with the items and deep zoom visuals. So you can zoom in and zoom out on items. You can also look at a set of metadata associated with those items. So in this particular case, we're looking at a chain of coffee shops. And each coffee shop has a set of information about it, like their revenue in FY10 and their average dollar of sales. So let's pretend like I own this particular chain of coffee shops, and I'm looking at this set of data, and I want to extract insights from my data, right? I have this set of data, but I want to learn things about it. Pivot Viewer is sort of uniquely positioned to do that. So let's say I think that average profit margin is a really good way to see how my stores are doing. Now, immediately I notice the vast majority of my stores have pretty good profit margins. But let's take a look at the stores that aren't doing so well. So maybe the stores that have less than 10% profit margin. So I'm drilling down into the set of results, and now I can hypothesize about why these stores are not doing so well and test my hypothesis very quickly with Pivot. So let's say, maybe I think that the profit margin is correlated to store type, and immediately I see it is correlated to store type. So I think that what's really interesting in Pivot is that you can see trends that would otherwise be invisible or would be difficult to see with other methods of viewing your data. So this is really great. It's a really compelling way to look at data. But one of the things we hear from customers is that they have really dynamic data sets that they want to visualize in Pivot Viewer. And so I sort of created a little app that plays around with the concept of dynamic pivot collections. So in this particular case, I'm going to be pinging the eBay API with Windows Phone 7. And obviously, nothing is much more dynamic than eBay, right? These auctions are constantly starting, they're constantly stopping. This is constantly updating information. And so what I did here is I pinged the eBay APIs, got back results for Windows Phone 7, and dynamically created this pivot collection on the fly, including zoomable visuals. And as you can see, the performance is really fantastic. And just like my other Pivot Viewer app, I can easily narrow in on my results and find what I'm looking for. So let's say maybe these are not the phones I'm looking for. Another really cool thing I can do is add items to this particular pivot collection. So without reloading the collection at all, I am pinging the eBay API again. I'm getting back the set of metadata, and I'm dynamically generating these XAML-based visuals that are, again, zoomable and very performant. So this is all dynamic. It's all happening client-side, and it's all zoomable and compelling. So again, searching for a Windows phone, let's say I want to narrow it by price. I want a more expensive phone because I'm a high roller. I want really great seller feedback because I want to buy from a reputable seller. And immediately, like in 2 seconds, I've found the potential phones that are right for me. So other things we're thinking about in the future of Pivot are developer customization beyond what you can do in V1. So I think one of the most compelling things here is that I actually took the eBay shopping cart experience and put it right here in what used to be the metadata pane. So this will just take any XAML you want. I can also customize the colors and the styles, and we're looking at customization options beyond what you can see in this demo. So because we're literally creating these collections on the fly, we can search for any term and get back a set of pivotized results. And you could literally do this with any data you had on hand. So what's happening here is, again, I'm pinging the eBay APIs with Silverlight. I'm dynamically constructing both the collection, which is the set of metadata, and the visual, which is XAML-based. Again, it's zoomable and it's filterable. So one of the interesting things about books is that it has a condition tag on it. So we can quickly sort by condition, look at only the new books, scroll in, scroll out, and find exactly what I'm looking for. So while dynamic data in a flat list can be really, really overwhelming because it's constantly changing and maybe you have a ton of results like eBay, when you put it in Pivot, you see that it's really easy to get to exactly what you want. And I think for this audience, what's most compelling is the fact that this could be written in literally a few lines of code with a XAML template representing the visual. So thank you so much. Please check out Pivot Viewer on silverlight.net.
So I think Angela showed some of the powerful data and information visualization capabilities that you can do, both Silverlight today and then where we're going with Silverlight 5 in the future. I want to talk now a little bit about graphics in general. You saw some of the great 2D graphic performance that Angela just demoed. With Silverlight 5, we're taking graphics even further. We're providing a new immediate mode graphics API that gives you the ability to draw directly to the GPU of your system. Enables much richer visuals, much better data visualization kind of capabilities built in. It also provides a GPU-accelerated 3D support. And you're going to see, hopefully in a little bit, some pretty eye-popping experiences that you can build with it. And to help show off just a few of those, I'd like to invite two of our friends from Archetype on stage, Luigi and Guido Rosso, who are going to show off a pretty amazing experience that's been built with it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Hello. My name is Luigi Rosso. I'm the CTO and one of the founders of Archetype. This is my twin brother, Guido Rosso. He's the CCO, and he's also one of the founders of Archetype. We got invited out here by Microsoft to show you guys some really cool 3D demos that showcase some of these new low-level 3D APIs. We've been waiting for 3D for a really long time in a development platform like this, so we're really excited about what we're going to show you. Why don't we get started? The first demo is going to be a demo that's running inside of the browser. It's a Silverlight 5 application. It's a really compelling data visualization app. What you can see is, what you first saw was a wireframe version of the world spinning around. And what you can do is you can turn on all these different layers that showcase a bunch of different layers of the world. So for example, we've got the Earth spinning. You've got a cloud layer spinning at a different speed on top of it. We can turn on a magnetic field, and you can see that it's all spinning in 3D. This is real 3D running inside of a browser with really, really good performance. Why don't we move on to something a little more real world? So the demo that we're going to show you next is a doctor's portal. And what's happening now is that it's downloading a bunch of textures and 3D models progressively. Because it's Silverlight, it plays really well with the web, stuff that it's already been doing. So when it comes up, we've got a portal that shows a list of patients. We've got a bunch of records. We've got a calendar and a dashboard. We can click on one of these patients. Why don't we click on Scott? You can see that a 3D model and all of his vital statistics flew in from the right-hand side. What's really cool to note here is that that 3D model is layered on top of a 2D image. It's just in a canvas, really. The image is in a grid that's in the background, and it's stretched to fill. And we've got another image, which is scan lines, layered on top of that. And you saw all those grids animate with a render transform. And those moved perfectly. There was no weird stuff at all. Everything was super smooth, really good performance. Why don't we zoom in on the head? And you can get a really good sense of just the quality that we're getting here. This is a really high-quality model. The performance, again, is astounding. You can zoom in and see every single pore. We're doing this with normal dot mapping. So why don't we move over to the heart area with the next button? So what you can see here is that, well, you can see this typical red polo. We fade it out a little bit, and you can see Scott's anatomically correct body here. It took a lot of work to make this right. So one of the cool features that we added into this demo is the ability to peel away all these layers, so we can fade out the body a little bit as well. So now as that fades out, you can reveal the musculature. We can fade that out, and you're going to see the skeleton. And now under the skeleton, you can see Scott's beating heart. And if we go in, you can get a little bit of a sense of the animation that's going on there, too. The way that we're doing that is with just a custom vertex shader that's doing some magic. There's some flow control. There's a little bit of moving around of the vertices and stuff based on a timer, and it's running really, really well. Let's take a look. You can spin it around from the inside. Actually, this is pretty cool. You can see his rib cage from the inside. This is a shot that most people would not be able to see traditionally. So it's actually kind of cool that you can show this kind of stuff. You know, Scott's on the computer a lot.
A doctor may want to check out his hand, make sure things look good there. So we're going to just show you what's possible, what we were showing here. So as you noted, by the way, the camera is animating from position to position. The way we're doing that is in managed code. We're simply animating a couple of properties like the target lookout position, the position of the camera, orbit rotations, and that kind of stuff. And we manage that, we animate that in managed code, and then we bind it to the vertex shader, which then simply shows the right camera angle, and we transform everything to the right position. So you can really get a good sense for the layers here. We turn on the musculature like we've got now, and you can see that. You can see all the details in his hand. You can move in close. Why don't we do one more beauty shot? You can really see how hard Scott's been hitting the gym. Put it in the body. And if there ever was any doubt as to Scott's commitment to Silverlight, well, let's just leave it at this. Thank you. So just to reel it back in, this demo was built in a week. These demos were both built in a week. We were invited up here by Microsoft about a week ago. We got a call in right before Thanksgiving break. They showed us this really cool 3D APIs that were going into Silverlight 5. We're super excited about how fast this has moved, how quickly we were able to do this, how quickly the API has been implemented, how good it is, and we're really excited to be playing with it in the future as well. Thank you so much.
If there's two things that you leave this event with remembering, the first one is I'm really ripped, and the second one is Silverlight 5 is too. And I think just seeing what you can do in a week of work is pretty amazing. We actually saw it last night for the first time, and kind of blew us away that you could actually do all that and do it so quickly. And so, I think it's going to enable a bunch of really amazing experiences with Silverlight and really take information and data visualing to the next level. So let's talk about some other new capabilities we're enabling from an end-user experience perspective. With Silverlight 4, we added much richer support to enable out-of-browser applications with Silverlight. This means you can download an app, run it in the browser, or take it out and integrate it as part of the desktop. And with Silverlight 5, we're making this even richer. We're specifically adding support for what we call multiple windows. And that means that you can actually, within your application now, create child windows that you can manage as part of the out-of-browser experience, one of the most top requested features we have. We're also adding what we call p-invoke support. So with Silverlight 4, we added the ability to call COM APIs. With Silverlight 5, you can now call unmanaged DLL libraries. You can also call Win32 APIs. And again, opens up a lot of device possibilities, a lot of integration with the operating system. We're also adding what we call enterprise group policy support. This is useful for a lot of intranet-based scenarios where an enterprise might want to either lock down what an application, either on the web or internally, can do from a security perspective, or open up the sandbox. And that means that you can actually have in-browser applications with Silverlight 5. If the enterprise allows it and makes it trusted, have that trusted application running inside the browser and take further advantage of the sandbox and things. So you can talk to Office, you can host HTML inside a Silverlight app inside the browser, and more. And to show off just a couple of those kind of capabilities and what this enables, I'd like to invite Dave Wolf from Synergy Systems to show off a great application they've built for Village Health.
Thanks, Cass. Good morning. So at Synergy, our passion is helping companies to imagine new software products. To design those products, both how people are going to experience them, but also how they'll interact with them. But probably most importantly, it's to help them ship incredible software. And over the last, 3.5 years since we announced Silverlight, or Microsoft announced Silverlight, we've helped companies ship over 100 products built on top of the Silverlight platform. It's been an incredible 3 years. We've done that across nearly every vertical imaginable. But over the last couple of years, the healthcare vertical has really started booming. And we've been working with progressive organizations like DaVita Village Health to design, concept, and build out these incredible software products. Over the last year, we've worked with DaVita Village Health to create Capella. Capella is a case management application that integrates into their integrated care model for their over 6,000 patients in the United States that are suffering with kidney disease. This is a Silverlight 4 out-of-browser application that clinicians and caregivers and nurses work with as they're working with the patients every day. Now, over the last weeks, we worked hand in hand with folks from DeVita Village Health as well as Microsoft to do some research and development around what this application might look like in Silverlight 5. So let's go take a look. Now, what you guys are seeing here is Capella. This is a Silverlight 4 out-of-browser application. We wanted it to look, for everybody working on it, like a rich, engaging, immersive desktop application like they'd be used to working with all day long. And we wanted it to be really the heart of this integrated care model that Village Health does. So you see here I'm on the dashboard. I've got rich graphing and charting, a lot of intelligent charting options, so I can very quickly switch between patients and switch back and forth, so I can see all the patients that I'm working with. I can actually see alerts, so we'll see some alerts popping up at the bottom, and in an instant I can jump in and see all the alerts and see how people have been tracking throughout the whole care process and see if there's anything I need to deal with as well. Now, what we wanted to do was also take a lot of advantage in the initial design in landscape, right? You guys know when you're working with these enterprise desktop apps, landscape is precious. Every pixel is absolutely priceless. So being able to do and go from patient to patient and see not only master information, but drill into the details, do that from patient to patient, jump back and forth, was really important. Now, with Silverlight 5, as Scott had said, they added the option of multiple window support. We wanted to see the kinds of things that we could do as an R&D project around increasing its landscape. So we said, what if we took things like the quick notes? So I'm taking notes all day long. What if I could take notes and actually tear them off the screen and bake them into their own window? We could see how I could tear page to page to page off of those quick notes. We wanted to take it a step further, though, because throughout the day, these clinicians are working with lots of patients throughout the day, and DeVita Village Health has an integrated care model about how they work with those folks and how they move them through this difficult process. And we wanted to come and say, well, how might we use these multiple windows to help out with working with multiple patients? So what if I could take all my patients and tear them off the screen? What if I could then drill into a particular patient and look at how they've been faring in our chart? Do a little bit of an arrow snap here, snap that on, and I actually am able to build my own screens and my own layouts. Now, these are true operating system screens, so if I go down and do an arrow view, we'll see all of those windows. They're true windows. I can interact with them like I would any other window. So really great feature I think the clinicians are going to love as they're working with that. Now, I said at the beginning we did this as a desktop application, a rich, engaging, immersive, the kind of things people are used to working with. And one of the reasons that you go to the desktop is that you want to interact with the operating system and with devices and applications that are running on it. Now, Scott had mentioned that in Silverlight 5, they came up with the addition of the feature of p-invoke, or the ability to fire a process off and do things like interact with devices. So we wanted to do some R&D around what that might be like. What we did was we realized, as you're going through this, this challenge and struggle through kidney disease, you're monitoring your body constantly and all kinds of diagnostic information. And so one of the items that people would monitor would be blood sugar. So what we did is we've taken this device. This is a Contour from Bayer. It's a glucose meter that's built into a USB device. So what you can do is monitor your glucose. You'll see here we've taken a reading of glucose a bit earlier today after about 4 coffees in a Danish backstage, and able to get our blood sugar. And so what we can do is take this device. We're going to actually plug it in to the USB here. And if I can get it to go in the right direction. There we go. And now the operating system is going to recognize that device. And what I can do now directly from the Silverlight 5 application running on the desktop is choose to retrieve the reading. This is going to fire off a local Win32 application. That application is going to connect out over USB to the glucose meter, extract the data of the readings that we've had. We'll see here it's now importing it in. We see the 93 milligram reading. I can simply choose to accept that, import that in. Custom vector drawing, being able to draw the callouts, draw the charts in real time. We're going to see real-time information off of clinical lab equipment directly onto the desktop and an application you wrote in Silverlight. Scott had also mentioned rich vector printing. So we're actually able to take these sorts of custom vector drawing and print them out exactly as is, so we can do paper charting when necessary as well. Now, one of the things we talk about a lot at Synergy is the idea of building the right experience for the right person and on the right device. And although the desktop is great, we know there are clinical environments where being able to run applications in a browser-hosted environment would be a better fit. However, we also know the importance about the data that we're talking about in healthcare. And we need to be able to do that and still honor the enterprise security, group permissions, and governance models that are running in the enterprise. And Silverlight 5 helped us address that as well. So what we have here is the Capella application running inside of a browser. Still Silverlight 5, same application hosted inside of IE. But what I can do now is do the same kind of rich integration with the local operating system like we saw on the desktop. So what if, for instance, I wanted to take the key metrics that are being tracked here for this particular patient and very rapidly export them right out to Excel, firing a local operating system process from within Silverlight, running in a browser, taking advantage of all the existing group permissions as well. So we're pretty excited about what Silverlight 5 is bringing to bear for us. The work and the research and development we've done only over the last 2 weeks. It's been a great partnership with everyone at Microsoft and Scott's team, the folks at DaVita Village Health, Rajiv, Kagani there. So it's been really incredible. We're really excited about what we're going to do over the next year as well, and look forward to seeing you guys with some more exciting stuff next time. Thanks a lot.
Well, building great apps is easier when you have great tools. And we think with Visual Studio and with Expression Blend, we have the richest design and development tools out there for building these types of application solutions. Two of the areas we're investing heavily in going forward with these tools is with automated UI testing to make it easier for you once you build your solution or as you're building your solution to unit test it and to automate and make sure that the functionality is correct. As well as improving profiling support so that you can profile your Silverlight-based applications and quickly identify hotspots and issues within them. And what I'd like to do is actually just invite John Papa back on stage to show off some of the new testing capabilities that we're adding to VS 2010 for Silverlight.
Thanks, Scott. Couldn't get rid of me. So Scott mentioned we've got some really cool new testing features built into the tooling. So I want to show you one today. But to set this up, in this application that I have, which may look familiar, I've got a book application, and I've got regular unit tests in my program. Everything works great. I can test the application. But what I want to do is I want to have user automated testing. So I want to simulate what the user is going to do in the application and then run tests against that. With a new feature we have called the Coded UI, which you can download for free. It's in a feature pack 2 up on our MSDN site. You can use the Coded UI to generate tests, to record tests, and to replay the tests. Very, very simple to do. So what I want to do first is I want to say, when I select the technology, and I type in the technology of data to filter out the titles, then I can see that this great book written by a guy named John Papa appears. And that's the test I want to simulate. So to reset that, now let's go generate our test. Over in Visual Studio, first thing I had to do is take my exact project without changing any code, and I can open up my Silverlight project, and here I have a new reference I have to add, this big long guy here. That is my automation helper from the Coded UI. Once I add this to my project, now I'm ready to generate my Coded UI tests. So the second thing I did is I created a test project, and I created a Coded UI test file. I do new file, create a Coded UI test, and here I get this method generated for me. I'll get rid of the magnifier for us. And inside that method, all I have to do is hit Control-C, and now my recording is appearing in the bottom right-hand corner. So it's telling me when I press this red button, it's going to record all the actions the user does. So I'm going to press the red button, wait for it to start up. It's ready to go. Now, any action I do on this computer is going to be recorded. So I'm going to hit Technology. It's going to filter them out to the right technology books. Now I'm going to type in the book by John Papa, and I'm going to search for it. Oh, wait a minute. I made a mistake here. There's no books. It's supposed to update. I didn't click the button. There's no books by John Papa in the title. That's the author name. I'm supposed to filter by the title. So I made a mistake. I'm going to hit the X. Now I'm going to type in data like I meant to, and I'm going to click the button, and the book appears as John Papa. So let's make sure I did this right. In the Coded UI, I've got this screen down here for my recorded actions. Let's zoom in on that. So here's my recorded actions. Oops. So here's my recorded actions I have for categories, tabs, and I got a bunch of other things like hitting my Windows buttons. Very easy to do, to delete them. I can select the actions, delete them, say I didn't mean to do that. And I can even go in now and say, all right, I'm done with this. Let's generate the code. Now it tells me what method do you want to create for your test UI. I'll let it call it recorded method 2. I've now recorded a test that's going to go out and do exactly what the UI just did. But that's not enough. I want to know when it's done that the value here for the title is Data-Driven Services and the author is John Papa. So I'm going to take these crosshairs. This is cool. You highlight over the bars, and you can see the different elements are being highlighted. So I want to drag and take the author name. It's going to pull up all the properties for that particular field. And at the conclusion of my test, I want to say text equals John Papa. I'm going to add an assertion. I can say it's equal, greater than, contains, and that looks right to me. And at the end, don't forget to click Generate Code again. This is going to create an assert method. I click that, generates code in Visual Studio, and I'm all done in my coded UI. I'll flip back here. I'm going to reset my test. Now, in my coded UI, you'll see the recorded method. That's going to go out and run the UI to simulate what I did, and I typed everything in. The assert method is going to make sure the value is John Papa when I'm done. So what do you do with all this? Well, first thing you do is you right-click, you run your test, and then the test results are going to go out and run the test for me. So you can see in progress at the bottom, it's going to flip back over to Internet Explorer. It's now going to simulate selecting technology. It's going to type in the search box. Oop, there's my mistake, John Papa. It's then going to go search. It's then going to correct itself and type in the word data. And at the end, it should bring up the book that says John Papa. Let's see if it worked. Brought up John Papa. The test results are passed. Everything looks good. I got two problems, though. One, I had all those extra actions in my test. So if I click on this UI map file, which gets generated for you, you can see in my assert method, I've got my test for John Papa, the text, that's what it's equal to. And in my recorded method, there's all of my actions. So what I can do is I can say, get rid of the John Papa typing, the tab for the filter, and all those other actions. Right-click, let's delete them. Let's clean up my test. Much, much smaller now. Go in, select a category. I even forgot that guy. Select a category, type data, hit tab, press go. That's all I really wanted. The second thing is, we know my test works when it says John Papa. Let's make sure my failure works as well. So here, I want to change the expected value to Guthrie. So here we go. We're going to do that. We're going to go back to our test now. I could rerun it by clicking the button for run. It should now pop up my UI, follow through the same steps. So I'll select the technology. After I select technology, I type data in the search box. I press search. The result comes back. The name is John Papa. It should be Scott Guthrie according to my test, and I see that I had a failure. So you can see with the coded UI, very, very easy to do, simple to set up. You can record events, you can replay events, and then you can generate code pretty easily. Thank you all very much. Scott.
Well, we've always focused on the performance of the Silverlight runtime, and with Silverlight 5, we're looking to make it even better. Specifically, we're focusing a lot with Silverlight 5 on making application startup faster. So the very first time you load a Silverlight application, have the paint on the screen show up a lot faster and have the app be more responsive immediately. We're also working to integrate some of the hardware acceleration capabilities of Silverlight with the new hardware acceleration capabilities of IE9. And what this means now is if you're running in windowless mode in Silverlight inside IE9, it'll just run faster and integrate those hardware capabilities. We're also, for the first time, introducing a full 64-bit version of the Silverlight runtime, which means that you can now use it both in 32-bit browsers as well as when people switch into 64-bit mode on their browser devices. So we've looked at a bunch of Silverlight applications that have been built by a variety of people here this morning. All I want to do is show one last demo here this morning of an application that we're building here at Microsoft that's built on using Silverlight. It's a great application coming from the SQL Server team that really enables business analysis and business reporting in a radically improved way. And I'd like to invite Thierry from that team to give you a first look at it.
Thank you, Scott. All right. So I'm very excited to be with you here today to give you some of the new developments in the area of business intelligence at Microsoft. When we talk to customers, they tell us they want more ease of use, they want more interactivity, they want a more visual experience with the data. We didn't want to just stop there. We actually really wanted to build a very fun experience, a very rewarding experience, something that they really want to stay engaged with. So when we looked at the platform available to us to build that experience, Silverlight was the obvious choice. And so without any further ado, let me introduce you to Crescent. So it's an in-browser experience here. So we're in the browser. You can see that we wanted to build a very familiar experience as well. So you have the ribbon at the top. So it very much looks like an Office experience, and people already know how to navigate there. We also have a task pane to the right that allows me to navigate my data. So I have a whole bunch of tables here and access to my data there. We're actually here working with a fairly small data set by our standards, about 10 million rows. It's actually the stats of the downloads in Netflix through Xbox Live for all the movies for last year. So the first thing I want to do is actually select my movie table. And as you can see here, I'm just getting a somewhat boring table. Slightly nicer because we put the posters in it. But it is just a table of transactions at some point. What we want to do here is actually we want to allow users to actually change the type of visualization to find interesting things about that data. So the first thing we want to let them do is, for example, change that look and feel to more of a call-out form. And obviously, we want to resize that so that we can do some more interesting thing in that page. So as you can see, as I resize, everything just automatically gets in place, in the proper place. Now, I also want to add some more aggregated stats into my report. So here, I'm going to select, for example, ratings. And I say I want to break down ratings and find out the number of downloads by ratings. So that's somewhat interesting. Still just a table. What if I change that, let's say, to a column chart? And resize that so that we can have something a bit bigger here. That's kind of OK. Now let me do it again. Let me do it now for genre. And let's say that time I actually want to track revenue year to date. And same thing here. I will just resize that and make it this time, let's say, a bar chart. So in about 30, 40 seconds, I built a fairly nice looking report. Now, it is not a static object. It's fully interactive. So the first thing I might want to do is ask some questions. So what's going on with PG-13, for example? So as you can see, as soon as I click, my list on the left, my list of transactions gets filtered, as well as my other chart. Now, what's interesting here, if you look at what actually is being displayed, it shows me the proportion, really the contribution of each of the PG-13 movies to the total for each of the genre. So that's kind of somewhat interesting. I start to learn some interesting things here. Apparently, a third of the comedies are PG-13. OK. What about R movies? R-rated movie is very interesting. One thing I found out here is there's no sci-fi being an R-rated movie. I would have kind of thought that, R-rated movie will be, in the sci-fi. And as you can see in the list, on the left got filtered again. 28 weeks later, Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag, clearly an R-rated movie here. So that's kind of interesting. I want to see more information about those stats here. So let me actually change that visualization here to more of a scatter chart this time. So I can use multiple axes and multiple measures to show information. So here we have revenue in the x-axis. Why don't I use number of downloads year to date in the y-axis? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use number of titles as the size of those bubbles. That's kind of cool. But really, people want to do BI. They really want to understand trends over time so that they can start to predict or figure out what's happening so that I can make better things and make a better decision in the future. So we're going to add here another dimension, which is the months. That's going to create a play axis for us. And I'm going to be able to play that play axis. So things start to move. That's kind of nice, a bit too small. Every data region here has the ability to take full advantage of the full real estate here, and we can see everything moving. So what's interesting about that is I can go back and play back in time to see what happened in that month or in that month. I can do better than that. I can start, for example, tracking specific objects, for example, a specific genre, and try to see what happened since the beginning of time, or actually here of our data. And what we can see here is actually comedy right out of the gate is coming out. Nobody's actually pursuing it. Nobody's even able to challenge it. But what's happening here? Sci-fi at the last minute is beating. It's beating comedy. What happened in sci-fi? What happened in sci-fi last year? Avatar, exactly, you got it. That's exactly what did it for sci-fi here. You can see a very fun experience. That's what we want, because then people really want to stay in it and really find more insights and information in their data. So that's kind of nice, but obviously when we're in a group, we want to be able to collaborate with that data. So we want to take even more advantage of the real estate of our screen here. So one thing I want to do is go full screen. Full screen, still fully interactive here, and that's kind of nice. What we wanted to do here is really make it very easy for people to collaborate with the data. It's not enough to just say, I found something interesting, I'm going to send you my report. Yes, that's pretty usual. People do that today. What we wanted to do is give the ability for people to record specific timestamp or specific position or finding or insight that they had in the data and build a story. I found this, then I went to look for that, and I found more information, and I found more insight, and I keep actually recording what's happening and building a storyboard. So I can here, for example, I found something interesting, I can save it, and it adds it into my storyboard. It's not a screenshot. It is really a timestamp of that report in that current state, and I'm recording for the same report in multiple state or multiple report, and I can build a story. I can go back in time, look at other reports that were in my storyboard, and I can share that storyboard with other people. And you can see here, for example, I had one when we had a way to navigate through the movies through kind of like that kind of flying experience. But then we got people telling us, what would be really, really nice is when we are in a boardroom, kind of like a setting like we are today, kind of a small sitting boardroom style, like, they say, what I really want here, what the tool I really use here is Office. It's PowerPoint. Why can't I just have that kind of experience inside of PowerPoint? So we say, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Why don't we actually allow you to take actually each of those snapshots in the storyboard, in those frames, and literally put them each in a slide and generate a slide deck for you, a PowerPoint slide deck. And so what happened here is we generated a PowerPoint. Now, just to prove you it's real, it's live. I'm not just faking it here. I can just change, let's say, for example, I've appropriately put a 50 styles movie. And then just go F5. And here we go. So I got my front page here. And then I can go to my first. And what you can see here is just an iframe loaded inside of PowerPoint. That's loading my Crescent experience inside of it. It's not a screenshot. It's fully interactive. I can start asking questions. I can say, hey, what's going on here? And really interact in that kind of meeting setup. This is Crescent. And thanks to Silverlight, this is really how we're going to bring the next generation of business intelligence tools to our business user. Thank you.
So it's been a pretty busy year for us. In April, we shipped Silverlight 4. A few weeks ago, we shipped Silverlight for Windows Phone 7. And hopefully, as you saw this morning, we've been very hard at work on Silverlight 5. What I want to do is just talk a little bit about kind of the timeline for when it's going to be coming out. We're working hard, as you can see, at finishing up the Silverlight 5 feature set, and we plan to ship the first public beta of Silverlight 5 in the first half of next year. We're then going to go ahead and ship the final release of Silverlight 5 by the end of next year. And it'll have the great capabilities you saw here today, hopefully a few more that we're going to save for a little bit later. We think hopefully really enable you to build kind of the next generation of great experiences and really wow your customers. We on the team continue to be inspired by all the great work that you're doing using Silverlight. It's a real treat to be able to have everyone come here this week, show us some of the great applications and solutions they're building. It gets us excited and really motivates us. And I hope you've seen some things this morning that in turn inspire you and are going to let you, with these new features, really build the next generation of solutions that are going to amaze both your customers and all of us as well. And I want to say a huge thank you to everyone for coming to this event or watching it online. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. We're really looking forward to getting your feedback, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Firestarter. Thanks again, and have a great day.